Hi guys, welcome to the next episode of the TRA Performance Education Podcast with your tiny titan host, Vicky Mirceta. I am always going to be in the hosting chair, which is very, very nice, but I'll always have a different guest on. And today I've got a very, very exciting guest by the name of Dr. Gary Mendoza. Gary, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Vicky. Nice to see you.
Absolutely, nice to be seen. So for people who've been living under a rock, Gary, just tell us a little bit about you, what you specialize in, and how you're going to be part of TRA.
Okay. Well, as you very rightly said, I'm Dr. Gary Mendoza. I've been a PT for 26 years now. It's been quite a while. I was one of the first PTs in the UK, actually, and qualified with British and American qualifications. I represented the National Register of Personal Trainers at the first ever personal training convention in America.
Right.
And then through working as a PT, I started to realize that a lot of my clients needed more nutrition advice than I could ever give them. So I went and did a degree in nutrition because I felt like I was making it up all the time. Came back. I've managed a city centre gym, a country club, and a country club for the Savoy as well. And then I worked for Future Fit for the best part of getting on for 10 years, I think, and wrote all their nutrition courses, put all their nutrition in place. So the stuff that they deliver today, a lot of that is based around work that I did. Whilst I was there, they sponsored me to do my PhD. And my PhD is actually, the actual whizzy title is a multidimensional model for the treatment of male obesity in a community setting. And so what that means...
That just rolls off the tongue nicely, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. What that means in English is men's weight management.
Right, got you.
So did that. I taught for 2 years in New Zealand, and my other area of expertise is sports nutrition. So I'm a qualified sports dietitian. Worked with a number of elite athletes. But more recently, I've been concentrating on the weight management behaviour change side of things because that was quite a part of my PhD. And so now we've set up the Stages of Change as a website, as a company, and I'm now delivering the Behaviour Change and Motivational Interviewing course. So that, in a quick one, is where I'm at.
Fantastic. And you are going to be putting on a seminar stroke camp for TRA, aren't you, at the beginning of August? So give us a little bit of a rundown of what people can come to expect on that camp.
Yeah, this is going to be really practical. We're only going to have kind of a maximum of 15 to 18 trainers on it because there's a lot of hands-on stuff, and it's behavior change and motivational interviewing. And so what it's going to do is it's going to train trainers, coaches, whatever, how to use psychometric testing to work out where their clients are psychologically in terms of their readiness to lose weight. And then the motivational interviewing side of it ties in because it teaches trainers better communication skills, helps them move their clients forward. So if after they've done the psychometric testing, it looks like they're not quite ready, they can use their motivational interviewing skills to move their clients psychologically to a position where they are ready.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very interesting. Okay, so we'll obviously put all of the details underneath this for people who want to come onto that camp. I know that I shall be there, so I'm excited just for myself. Okay, so moving on to the podcast today, we are going to talk about adherence strategies and trying to get trainers to encourage their clients to adhere to their dieting or, you know, their plans of what's written on paper. So I'm just going to hand the reins over to you. But just from a personal experience, obviously, I'm a coach as well. I'm a physique coach, so I get to coach people to stage, but I also have lifestyle clients at the same time. And I know from scientific and anecdotal evidence that I can write the best plan on paper that there is for that particular individual. But unless they actually stick to it, it's pretty pointless. So off you go then, Gary. What do you see that's quite prevalent in the industry at the moment with people who are non-adherent, and how can we come to fix that?
Okay, well there you go. There's two things straight away that you said. How can we get people to adhere? How can we fix that? And the answer is you can't do either, because the only person that can do that is the client.
Correct.
And that's sometimes it's a hard thing for a coach to accept. We talk about, oh, I'm going to motivate my client. You can't motivate your client. The only person that can motivate the client is the client. So what you need are the skills so as that client can find their own motivation. And that's where the difference is, I think. For a long time, we've thought, oh, well, I've got a client that wants to lose weight. I'll give them all this knowledge and job sorted. And then you see it regularly on Facebook. I've got this client and I've been working with her, and for some reason she's not losing weight. What am I doing wrong? And the bottom line is you're actually not doing a lot wrong. It's just that the client's not doing what you'd like them to do. And that's because that's the client's choice. And so I think you have to, the first thing you kind of have to get your head around is you've got to respect the client's autonomy. In other words, it's totally their choice whether they do it or they don't. And nothing you can say or do will alter that in some respects. So you'll hear some trainers saying, oh, well, you just need to kind of give them a nudge or get a bit tough with them or tell them about the real world or whatever. And all those type of strategies, actually, all that will do is give you pushback. Because one of my favorite sayings from Bill Miller, who's one of the founders of motivational interviewing, and one of the things he often says is, people don't like to be should on. I said, oh, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you should do this, you should do that. And that's what he means. People don't like to be should on. So it's like, oh, right, okay, I kind of get that. So if you understand that from the start, you're halfway down the road, I often think. From an adherence point of view, you're only really going to know where you're at if you know where the client is psychologically. In other words, what's going on in their head. They may say to you, oh, yeah, it's great, you're a brilliant trainer, I love the program you've given me, blah, blah, blah. But actually, at a subconscious and unconscious level, they're going, this is bloody horrible. I hope I don't have to do this for too long or whatever. So you're getting one side, you're getting like the public front, if you like. But actually the truth, which is sitting back here, is, oh, I don't like this. And so what you kind of need to be able to get at is that subconscious, unconscious. And the psychometric testing that I do will kind of tell you where your client's at. And it's really interesting because in my research, I had personal trainers. So it was very practical in that we used UK personal trainers that had done the standard kind of level 3 training. And I trained well over, 500 trainers over the years, I suppose. So I kind of tapped into that network. And I asked them to send me, or ask any clients that they took on, male clients, would they be interested in taking part in the research? And then I psychometrically tested these guys. And then I just let the trainers get on with it and then followed them up 12 weeks later. And what was really interesting was from the data, I could predict which clients would succeed and which clients would drop out. And so it appears that people will take on a trainer, a coach, whatever, even if they're psychologically not ready to change. Sometimes when I say that to trainers, they're like, yeah, but my clients just paid me like, I don't know, £400 up front. Surely they must be ready to go. And I'm like, no, that's actually not a guarantee, believe it or not. And sometimes that's quite hard to get your head around. Surely nobody would commit to that if they weren't ready. But the research clearly showed that people will. And so my argument is all trainers should actually assess their clients before they take them on as to whether they're ready to change. Because if you do that assessment, we got an 86% success rate. And if you compare that to, I'm not seeing any data, but I would reckon maybe 50% wouldn't be a far off figure in terms of the success rate of most kind of PTs in terms of do people lose the weight? More importantly, keep the weight off.
Definitely, yeah.
So I repeated that. I've done it in the UK and I've actually done it in New Zealand as well. I did it with Maori and South Pacific Islanders. So it even works cross-culturally. So we don't have to worry about cultural, social background or anything else. These tests work. And one of the things that threw up, and because I proposed to the NHS that maybe GPs should screen clients instead of just going, you're overweight, you're obese, I'm putting you on a diet, or go and see the practice nurse or whatever their thing is. Maybe they should assess whether those people are ready or not, because that way you're not going to waste any income in terms of, well, there's no point in putting someone on a program if they're going to fail at it. And ethically, is that right anyway?
Definitely.
But it does give you an ethical problem, because if you've got an obese client in front of you and you screen them and you think you're not ready to lose weight yet, what do you do with that client? You can't just go, well, bye, it was nice knowing you, and have a short life. And
Yeah.
So it was, but really, I didn't have the answer until about 3 years ago. And then I came across motivational interview, and I was really fortunate that I trained with Bill Miller and Stephen, the two guys that kind of devised MI. And what MI is designed to do is take people that are ambivalent. In other words, they can see some pros, but they can see as many cons. So the type of person you'll get, you know, that, oh yeah, I really want to lose weight, but it's difficult. Oh, I've done diets in the past and they've been really good, but eventually they failed. So there's always positive, but it always comes with the but. And that's a classic, somebody's ambivalent. They're kind of sitting on the fence. They don't know which way they want to go. And what motivational interviewing allows you to do is help that person move forward to a point where they are ready to kind of make the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you come up against people yourself? So just backtracking a little bit to what you just said about people who aren't ready to change, but for health reasons, they really do need to lose that weight. I mean, I've come up against it myself, and I know quite categorically that these people aren't ready to change because they're not sticking to the diet, or they're not sticking to plans, or they're calling in and saying, oh, I can't make my training session today, and, you know, making excuses basically. So I know myself that they're not ready to change. What have you done in that regard? Obviously, because, I mean, do you just basically sit down and have a good heartfelt talked one-to-one chat with them to say, listen, it's health markers that it's dangerous if you don't do this, or what is it that you do from there?
So that's the first thing. Scare tactics won't work.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like with smokers. Most smokers know that smoking gives you cancer, you're going to get heart disease, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I always think it's intriguing as to why we insist on putting tarry lungs and diseased hearts and that on cigarette packets. Because if the NHS is evidence-based, all public health research shows that scare tactics don't work. So why are we even doing that? So
they don't know any different.
There's a contradiction there straight away. But no, with that type of client, the one you're just discussing, I wouldn't have even started work with them at this point, not from a training or dietary point of view. I would have, because the psychometric test would have told me straight off, this guy or this girl's not quite there yet. And so what you do with that client is you do a number of consultations with them that are just motivational interviewing.
Okay.
And you could the way to describe motivational interviewing is it's kind of a comfy conversation, but it has got direction. In other words, we're trying to get the client to discover for themselves their own reasons why they should change. And they will have them. It's just a case of drawing them out of the client. So rather than me sitting there going, oh, you'll need to lose weight, and if you don't, you're going to have bad joints and you might have a heart attack and you'll have no energy, and did you know it's bad for you for this and that? That's no good. They maybe know some of that anyway. And so motivational interviewing sits there and it almost gets them to give that back to you. Oh, and so what you're looking for is, without going into too many of the technicalities of it, you're looking for what we call change talk. So change talk is things like, oh, I know I should lose weight, or it might not be good for me in the future. I need to lose weight because. So all this type of language, and that's what motivational interviewing is about. It's about being able to, what we call, evoke that language, but also as a trainer, be able to spot it and then almost get the client to amplify it.
Yeah.
And so because it's more powerful, as you'll know yourself, if you hear yourself saying it, it's more powerful. So you're always your best motivator when it's getting on stage, whether it's going to the gym on a cold night when you're thinking, oh, I'd rather stay in and watch the telly. Something in your head goes, no, I've got to do this. I've got to get it done. It's part of what I do. And that's what we're looking to find for the client, is getting them to find their own voice, if you like, that says you need to get a grip of this.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like that, because that's what I do with all of my clients. I screen my clients, first of all, whether they're an online client or a one-on-one client as well. And the very first question that I ask them after they say, yeah, I want PT, or yeah, I want online coaching, I ask them, what is your why?
Yeah.
And I really want them to give me a good detailed answer of what is your why, because if it's just, well, I just want to lose weight, It's
Yeah.
like, well, that isn't good enough for me. Everybody wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to gain muscle. Everybody wants to look good naked, but you need to find that reasoning why.
Yeah.
And it sometimes does take, like you said, a few more sessions before we start training until they figure out that why. And it could be something, something as deep seated as I've had an eating disorder for such a long time that I really want to get over it because I don't want to pass that eating disorder on to my kids. So it's something along those lines. Okay, excellent. So that's the first thing. We're obviously trying to motivate our clients to find out their reasoning in order to start this program. Now, what about when it comes to body image? Like, let's go the other way. I mean, I know that you're an expert in the obesity side of things, but what about muscle gain and people who actually want this size morphia? They just want to get as big as possible. How would you go along those kind of lines, asking them why and what's the motivation for them being so big?
I would still stick with your kind of line of questioning, finding their real why, trying to find what their true belief is.
Okay.
Because it could be, I want to get bigger because that's going to make me more confident, or that will make me more attractive to women or to men, or whichever way around it is. And you really need to explore that. And some of this is almost like cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like, is that true? Is what you're saying actually true? Will being bigger make you any more confident than you are now? And getting them to explore what their true beliefs are. I did a blog recently where I talked about desire and belief.
Yep.
Now, if your desires are at 10 and your beliefs are at 5, your desire will always sink back to your belief. So you can have the strongest desire, and we see it every year. New Year is perfect. New Year's resolutions. Everybody is super confident, going to get fit, going to improve my diet, going to stop smoking, whatever it might be. And they're super confident at that point because desire is at 10, beliefs at 5. And so over the January period, what happens is the desire sinks back to the belief, and then eventually they ditch the program. So as coaches or as trainers, what we have to find out is, what is the belief? And if you can get to what that belief is, that is something that you can build on and make that stronger. Because if the belief is stronger, then ultimately they'll achieve the result they want, providing it's realistic. Because the other thing with people that want to put size on, sometimes they're being really unrealistic about what's achievable. They see a person on stage or in a magazine and they're like, oh, I want to look like that. And you're looking at them thinking, with the best will in the world, no matter how hard you train, you are unlikely to end up looking like that.
Absolutely.
So kind of setting getting them to set realistic goals as well is just as important.
And would you do the whole milestone goals as well? So like mini milestones rather than the actual light right at the end of the tunnel?
Goal setting is absolutely crucial in motivational interviewing, but the way I do goal setting is slightly different, and it's got a kind of element of NLP. And I know some people are for NLP and some against it, whatever your kind of views are on that. The science around it's a bit iffy, to say the least. But one of the things I do and I found has worked is anchoring. So getting them to kind of find something emotionally that they can really use, and then attaching that to their goals. So as they've got, and the goal is not only a kind of a written down, whatever, a number on a sheet of paper, it's got some type of emotional pull. And then, as you rightly said, small steps as well. So I always get, and the key thing is I get them to do it is another thing. Because often I see trainers impose goals on clients. It's like, why don't we go for a stone in a month or whatever it might be? And it's like, client's got no ownership of that whatsoever. So the goal must come from the client. You as the trainer can help them maybe frame it into better words or whatever, but ultimately they've got to have total ownership of it because it's their goal, not yours. You may have a desire for your client to be fitter, healthier, whatever, and that's perfectly fine, but ultimately it's down to the client. So they've got to have ownership. And I think the other thing to talk about with the clients, so have these kind of little small steps along the way, maybe 2 or even 4 week goals, and then build on those to a kind of, I don't know, a 6 month, a year goal. And then I always get them to go for a dream goal as well. Something that no matter, they can't possibly envisage how it would ever happen, but put it down there anyway, because you just never know. And as you build on the others, maybe that dream goal doesn't look so silly anymore. Definitely. So that kind of gives them, I don't know, hope, I suppose, is the word to say.
That's it.
The key thing to do with goals is make sure that if they're not achieved, it's not seen as failure. I talk quite a lot about failure is feedback. So don't see it as catastrophic. See it as, well, let's learn from that. Why did we not achieve that? What went wrong? Just makes us stronger next time. So I think the way you're framing the whole thing is really important, and making sure the client's got a clear, a realistic understanding, actually. Because I think sometimes people come to trainers and they think, oh, you're really good. Look at the way you look. I'm going to look like that. That must be possible. And it's like, woo, let's back this off a bit and find out, what do you want? You shouldn't be aspiring to be me or someone else. Aspire to be the best that you can be.
Absolutely.
So again, it's that kind of reality check.
Definitely. And I really like, and I want to reiterate and echo the point that you've just said in regards to not achieving that mini milestone or that mini goal as a failure. I never ever like my clients putting a mini goal in place by saying, I want to lose X amount of weight by this point, because as we all know, weight fluctuates all the time due to so many different variables. So I really don't like having a weight goal as a mini goal, but I like saying things like, well, why don't you look at measurements or a pair of jeans that you haven't fit in or something along those lines? Because realistically, even if you weighed 100 stone but you looked amazing and you love the way that you look, would weight really matter?
Yeah, I agree. And part of that is education, because I think in the early stages clients will expect weight goals because they've come to you for weight loss. If you're doing a good job of educating that client about body composition and body fat percentage, that type of thing, you should really get to a point, even 4 weeks down the line, where they're like, well, I don't really want to talk about weight because it's fairly irrelevant. And that's a real good indicator to you that you're doing a good job. Because I think part of the role of a trainer, yes, you want your client to achieve the results and the best they can be, but part of your job is to educate that client. And I don't think enough trainers spend enough time on education. So rather than, oh, just eat this, this works, or this does this or that, tell them why. Give them the education. In my PhD, the trainers that took part in that, in the second part of it, which was a 12-week weight management program, but we did, as you rightly say, body measurements was actually one of the key outcomes, so waist measurement. But they did what I called the lean system, which is lifestyle education for activity and nutrition. And so although they were going along to their trainers every week and training, and some didn't actually go to the gym, actually, some just got more active. They looked at how they could build activity into their life. But every week there was nutrition education. So by the end of 12 weeks, the clients really understood about the basics of macronutrients, micronutrients. They could read a food label. They could make choices for themselves. And one of the things when I teach the workshop and when I used to train personal trainers was I said, your goal in life should be to get rid of your client. And they're like, whoa, hang on. What do you mean by that? That's a bit scary. That's my income. I'm like, no, the relationship must come to a point where the client understands exercise, understands nutrition, knows what they're doing in the gym. They actually don't need you anymore. And I said, that shouldn't scare you. I said, because that client is now going to go on, and every time they speak to somebody and they say, oh, how did you get like that? Or how did you do that? They're going to go and see such and such. She got me to that point. They're going to become your best advertising tool out there. So I said, never be afraid of losing a client for those reasons, because we all get to a point where we need to move on. Even if you look in elite sport, athletes will change their coach. And that's simply because they feel they've kind of outgrown the coach they're with and they need a new perspective on it. And there's not a problem with that. And we shouldn't be scared of that. Our job is to educate people so as they can make lifestyle choices for themselves.
Absolutely. Definitely. And I think that's a really, really lovely note to finish on, actually. You don't want to have a coach forever. You know, you want to be in charge of your own life and your own lifestyle at the end of the day. It's just about taking the training wheels off and carrying on and cycling on your own. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's what I like to do with all of my clients. And I'm sure that you do with yours as well. And I hope that most coaches do in the industry now anyway. But excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for your time today, Gary. I really appreciate it.
No
Just
problem.
before you disappear, if you'd like to tell people where they can find you and where they can find your courses and where obviously they can buy their tickets for your seminar coming up in August.
Yep. Okay. So our website is at www.stagesofchange.co.uk. You'll find all information there about the venues, contacting us, whatever. Same for the Facebook page, that's stagesofchange.co.uk, so you can kind of link through there as well. There is partner tickets, so if you've got you and a friend, it actually works out cheaper for the pair of you to buy a partner ticket, so that's a good option if there's a couple of you fancy kind of learning some new skills. And the one thing I would say about the workshop is you will go away Sunday afternoon, and I guarantee you can use whatever you've learned on the workshop Monday morning. And if you look at some of the testimonials on the website, it totally supports that view. We've had a couple of trainers who have had clients they've been really stuck with for 6 months. They've gone back, used their MI skills on the Monday, and they've said, it's like the light bulb went on. It was really weird.
Yeah.
So that's really pleasing when you can kind of take a skill and just use it straight away.
Fantastic.
So hopefully see you on there.
Absolutely. So I'll make sure that all of the details for that is in the comments section on this YouTube video, guys. So obviously, if you do need anything answering or any questions that you want to pose to myself, the boys at TRA or Gary, then please put them in and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But for now, that is it from the TRA Performance Education Podcast and myself and Dr. Gary Mendoza. And we will catch up with you again in the next episode. Thanks so much. Thank you, Gary.
Cheers, Em. Bye-bye.